Okay, so let's discuss a bit about multi-cloud security, about cloud security in hybrid environments, hybrid security in environments built on top of big enterprise companies and infrastructures, because this is really hard, and building this effectively is really a big challenge. Where we are now in 2022 with cloud security, I would say same old, same old. I'm starting many of presentations with this sentence said by Neil MacDonald from Gartner, and he said in 2015 that most of the cloud security-related incidents will be due to misconfiguration, mostly. And I think that still we are fighting with the same. We are still fighting with mistakes, with complexity, with that kind of the things. Examples, GitHub. Who knows the case from GitHub? Recent case. Uber. Maybe not the same, because in case of Uber, attack vector started from 2FA, because they started to bombing the user with 2FA requests till he accepts one of those. Sometimes this is a really big problem, especially, for example, now I'm started to using Mac, and he's connected to Microsoft services. Sometimes I'm getting 3, 4, 5 questions to accept second factor of the authorizations, and sometimes I don't know why. So this is a problem, and please don't accept those questions, those second factor authorization questions, if you are not 100% sure that you know what you are accepting. This is really a problem. What we will be talking about today. So I would try to go through cloud security challenges. I would like to say a few words about possible ways to mitigate those threats, how we can approach that. A few words about shift left, something which is now really significant on the market if it comes to the approach to the security during the development process. And I will tell a few words about other solutions, other security solutions that are tailored for the cloud, that are able to consume everything which is produced on the cloud side, and at the same time they are able to connect everything which is, for example, produced on on-prem, put those things together and give the full picture for the security teams, which is really important. Who am I? I'm in the IT industry for more or less 20 years. I started on the client side with big ISP, Orange, with financial institutions like mBank. Then I spent some time on the vendor side. I spent a few years on a consulting side, and now in a small 4,000 people Polish company, Envs Solutions. Okay, so challenges. I think that it's good to start from the report. Report produced by Palo Alto Networks about the state of cloud native security. What challenges people who has been asked are seeing, and what is the change between 2020 and 2021? As we can see, all of those things are connected with complexity. Driving the innovation, and the innovation is producing complexity. It's like Michał said in his presentation about Microsoft region in Poland. How many services do we have in Azure? So if we will not have proper tooling to get all of those things together, then definitely we will be lost somehow. In some point of time, we cannot be sure that we will be safe 100%. What are the biggest companies doing to fight with that? They are, for example, shrinking the number of vendors, of security vendors they are using. We said many times that we would like to split the solutions for many vendors because of the vendor lock. Nowadays, I think that from the business perspective and from the effectiveness perspective, it's not a point. Now companies are relying more, they're caring more about security than being, you know, on a good position when they are talking to the vendors, yeah? And the best position when I'm talking to vendor is, if you will not give me a good price, then I will switch you for something else. So this is some challenge we have to fight with. So misconfigurations. Why? Human mistakes, lack of security awareness, lack of proper trainings for all of you, for developers, for engineers. We have timelines, we have sprints, we have products to be delivered. Nobody is thinking about security in a proper way. Next problem, which I see in almost any company, is because of the really big difference between the number of people who are taking care about security and engineers, product managers, and the rest of the staff. Some of the companies are saying that this is, for example, 10 security guys for 1,000 other people in IT. That kind of the numbers. So taking care about security in such a challenging environment is really not easy stuff. So where we are doing those misconfigurations for the most? Access control rules still on top of the network, because in cloud, if you will share something to the internet, it will be just shared to the internet. There is no old approach in the data center where we got server guys and networking guys. If server guys did some mistakes, then probably network mitigated that. Probably the traffic was not opened on the firewall. Probably there was no proper NAT rules on the traffic path. So it was much easier. As I said, in the cloud, if you will share something publicly to the internet, probably it will be already shared. And somebody will get those information, mostly bots. Encryption. Another challenging things, especially for the financial institutions, for the highly regulated markets, where we have to take care about encryption at rest, in transit, in motion, in use, for all of the types of the data. And this is another key point in this discussion. So how we can mitigate those threats? Manually, we see something we're trying to repair. We can try to automate some of the things, but still, we're initiating this mostly manually. And we can try to build a self-healing infrastructures with a lot of automations, with a lot of things which will be repaired out of the box. And the security posture of the solution will be checked against the baselines, against the policies automatically, and all the gaps will be mitigated automatically. This is something we would like to have in the future. So from my perspective, I see that we have two ways that we can choose to mitigate those threats. One is shift left, and the second one, which probably for most of you will tell nothing, SOC Visibility Triad. I will tell a few words about that later on, and we'll be focused on one solution which is consisting this triangle, this triad. If it comes to the security as code and shift left, why we would like to do this? Because we would like to implement security and governance from the security perspective on the really early stages of the projects. This is really important things. Then Second aspect, as I said, on those differentiation between teams, security and IT ops, it is really important to drive the cooperation between IT ops and security ops. And if it's possible, then move some of the work to the IT side. And by putting the security teams only to orchestrating the things, but the IT teams to develop proper controls. And there are some tools that will allow to do that. So it's just a matter of us to choose the proper way and to put this with proper priority. SOC Visibility Triad. It's something which was invented by Gartner, another time Gartner. And this is approach where they are saying that to get the good visibility from the security perspective, you need 3 solutions. One is EDR, so endpoint detection and response, and the perspective of the endpoint. NDR, network detection and response, perspective of network, but I would like to say platform, because NDRs can consume security logs and informations from, not only from networks. They can consume, for example, audit logs from the platforms. They can consume flows. They can generate some security information on top of the traffic they are seeing. So this is not only about the network. And we have CM and SOARs. So we have systems to grab all the data, to correlate them, and maybe to orchestrate the automation if it comes to the response of the incidents. So shift left. What is this about? Generally, we would like to move from the reactive approach to the proactive approach. Reactive, I mean, if we are trying to apply security here, mostly we are working reactively. We are trying to react on the security gaps we are seeing. Yeah? We are doing a pen testing, then we are getting some reports, and then we are trying to repair. And moving back from the end of the process to the beginning in order to repair the gaps, security holes, is really costly. So what about if we will then identify and define all the rules on the really early stage and then drive all of the security-related things in line with the development process? This is all about shift left, as simple as that. So what we are trying to care here, we have to care about the platform security. How we are building the platform, what kind of security controls we are applying. We need to take care about code security. For example, scanning against secrets that will be hard-coded. We need to take care about identity from the many dimensions, like identity if it comes to the service-to-service communication, like, for example, through API, how we will identify services between themselves, as well as it comes to the users, which are, simply logging to the infrastructure, how they are logging, what they are doing, how we are checking if the user is really the person who we are thinking it is. And the data security, so as I said previously, how we will treat the data in motion, in use, and at rest. So how to enable shift left? I think that by using security as code and automation. And if it comes to security as code, we need to talk about control as code. So simple security functionalities that we are implementing during, for example, infrastructure creation, like encryption, for example, or security access rules from the network perspective. Then we have policy as code, where we are trying to control what people are doing if it comes to the infrastructure. We are trying to block some actions in order to make the infrastructure safe. Then we have governance as code. And governance as code is really connected with policy as code. But from my perspective, governance shouldn't block. Governance should establish a baseline, and by checking if we are compliant with the baseline, should drive the innovation and drive the mitigation of the things we are seeing. Why I'm saying innovation? Because it's not only one way to mitigate the risks. So I would like to ask all of the people who are developing to think about how we can mitigate the gaps in a most effective way. Because sometimes the security guy will tell, okay, block it. Maybe this is not a good approach to mitigate the risks. And there's something really new on the let's say on the market is a detection as code. So approach where by using proper tool set, you will get a possibility to write the detection by yourself, by using Python language, for example. But you will get the whole framework to do that. So you will not need to take care about data ingestion, about storage. You will get a data lake in the bottom. You will get all the tools. Then you will need to take care only about the detection, how to write them, how to manage them, all of the things I will go through in the details now. So security as code, for example, implementation of encryption for the storage account, example from Microsoft, so nothing fancy. Security policy as code, as I said, their focus is to block some actions on top of the infrastructure. And the governance as code, this should be a workflow. This should be a process. So we have to define a policy, then we can check the infrastructure against, then we need to review, and a really important aspect, we have to drive the remediation of the security gaps. How we can do that in code? Simple example. We can use bridge crew checkoff, and we can use Azure pipelines in order to drive the remediation, in order to put some controls on top of it, some reporting. Because this is really important at the end of the day to get the knowledge if the gaps were remediated or not. Detection as code. So many of those things I already said, but must-haves for DAC. I think that this is really important as we have like 10 minutes. So definitely the solution has to support agile workflows. Then it has to support expressive language and code reuse. We have to have possibility to store the code and reuse the code if needed for different detections. Continuous integration and delivery integration. This is the place where I would suggest to implement security as code in the integration between IT ops and security ops. So writing the detection and the process orchestrated by the security only. So security is only orchestrating, but the IT ops teams are writing those detections during writing the code of the application, yeah? Because when I am writing some functionalities, for example, then I know how those functionalities should work, then I am able to quite quickly write a detection to think some deviations from the baseline. Some examples, not much, but I think that Panther is most promising solution here. I didn't know this solution completely till I started to do some research for this purpose of this presentation. So this is really something to be checked. We can try to do something on top of Microsoft with Sentinel to manage the policies and security controls as code. We can do something with Splunk, probably some more solutions on the market. Example from the detection, from the Panther. So simple code in Python. This is like frame. So we need to define a rule, we need to define a title, and some other things. And what we will put here is only our decision. if I will decide, if I am good on the machine learning models, then I can start to use machine learning model by, defined by myself, and try to get something more from those detections. Yeah? So elasticity of these solutions is impressive, I think. Other solutions aligned with shift left. A little bit complicated slide, but maybe you will read it after the presentation. So there are many solution classes that can be used in order to help the organization to implement the security as code and implement the security during the development process. We can tell about those infrastructure as code security tools like Chekhov or other ones. But it's really important not to forget about cloud security posture management. This is really important. And this is the class of the solutions that can be used to build a proper policy and execute this policy and remediate automatically. There are some solutions on the market where you are able to simply build a policy which will say, okay, check my infrastructure against ISO 27001 or NIST Cybersecurity Framework or anything else. There are many. And by few clicks, you will get the report, you will get the ability to remediate. Yes, those solutions are quite costly, but the worst case is if, as Przemek said on a previous presentation, if we will spend a lot of time on developing a solution, and at the end of the day, nobody will look on the events in Jira, for example. Yeah? So automation here, and those solutions allow us to do automations out of the box. You have to do almost nothing to enable automation in order to remediate the threats. Cloud workload protection if it comes to the host security, containers, serverless, all of those things, and cloud entitlement management when it comes to the IAM security. A few words about integration types. Generally, most of those solutions we can integrate through API integration. Most of those solutions are accessible from cloud. They are the vendors are selling them in a SaaS model, so we can implement them really easy. Sometimes I'm saying that with 1 cup of coffee in my hand, I can do an integration between client's cloud infrastructure and really sophisticated NDR solution, because this is only to integrate the from the identity perspective, and that's it. We need just to give an access from one solution to the another one. SOC Visibility Triad. So how the security operations centers look like in the organizations. Generally, few components. We have this EDR, NDR, which I said on the beginning. Then we have CM and SOAR. Here we have mostly events. In CM, we are doing triage. Triage is a process of deciding if the event is incident or not. And then on SOAR system, we can automate the process of remediation. And today we will discuss a bit only about NDR solution, because I am thinking that if we are talking about the case like with Uber or other attacks on big infrastructures nowadays, I think that NDR solution can block that kind of the attacks out of the box. And this is quite important to, before I will go to the simplified architecture. It is quite important when, for example, any of you is starting the project on the client side, to ask security teams, am I secure when I am developing for you? What you are doing in order to mitigate my mistakes? Because people are doing mistakes. And what if my identity will be compromised? Probably I will never know even if my identity was compromised or not. What you will do if somebody will start to exfiltrate the data from the organization by using my credentials? And this is really important to start this discussion, to not forget about that, because then we are seeing those big attacks on big companies. So NDR platform is focused on ingesting the proper data in a way which is understandable for the solution, then make some detections, then prioritization, then response. We can start to investigate if we want, but this is not something we have to do. And this prioritization, there are some solutions, for example, which will not gain the high level of an alarm till they will not see that, for example, data is exfiltrated from the organization. So this is really important, because if you have small security teams, then you are not, you don't have to deal with the noise. You are just getting the detections which are really important. And then if you will serve them, then you can start to working with the other ones. How to integrate NDR platform with the infrastructure. So if we are talking about public cloud or as-a-service solutions or identity, like for example Azure AD, then we need to ingest the logs and flows, and we are mostly work on top of that. If we are talking about the network, we can implement dedicated sensors, and we can analyze the packets, the traffic. Some of the solutions can do decryptions of the traffic. Some others don't need to do that even. They are, for example, able to detect things like, for example, beaconing on top of the encrypted traffic. So it doesn't matter that we will have to decrypt everything. Then we can integrate with the endpoint side, and we can get the context for the incidents. We can do a data enrichment, and we can respond by, for example, blocking the endpoint, by blocking the account, that kind of the things. Some examples of the solutions we can integrate NDR systems with, so public clouds, modern workplace environments, directory services, networking almost on top of any vendor, any cloud vendor, because we are implementing sensors here, integrations with endpoints, detection and response systems. Just an example. I wouldn't like to mention any particular NDR solution. I think that you can try to Google it or just go through the report from Gartner and you will get the top solutions. So those solutions, in few words, covering all types of the clouds, if this will be hybrid or multi-cloud. They're giving really good visibility and unified view on the threats. They are massively using machine learning. So this is why we didn't got that kind of the solutions in the past, because of the computing power, mostly. Because everything they are doing is done on top of machine learning models. And from my personal experience, many financial institutions gave me a feedback that, yes, those solutions were able to block really sophisticated, for example, ransomware attacks on the infrastructure. Last slide. So, a few things about shift left. I think that when you should go into the shift left, when you are organization, when you are enterprise with a really, really strong DevOps culture. You need to be really advanced here and then try to replicate on the security operations. This should be always element of a long-term strategy, because building the whole process will take time. And elasticity. You will get really good elasticity if it comes to the security as code, because you can develop everything, yeah, and you can integrate this approach with almost everything. You are not blocked by the by the vendors, for example, and predefined integration mechanisms. NDR solutions. So definitely for highly regulated environments, like financial institutions. Some said, some of you asked for the health data, really important aspects. Or when I worked for the consulting, I got a discussion with one of the software houses, and they said, in general, we are developing applications for our clients according to our best knowledge, methodologies, and so on. But sometimes we have clients who are, for example, requiring us to build a dedicated environment which will be 100% compliant with ISO 27001. Yeah? So then we can try to build such environment by using NDR solution as one of the elements which will assure that we will be safe. If you have expectations for a quick payoff, because as I said, grab a cup of coffee and before you will end it, the solution will be integrated. And real value from NDR solutions is if you will integrate them within the whole ecosystem. So it's really important to not to get a solution which is, on top of the Gartner Magic Quadrant. It's really important to first check what kind of the solutions I have in my organization, and then to choose an NDR solution which will be able to integrate with most of them. Because through integrations, we will get the automation. And through automation, we will get really quick response. Just to show you how fast threats can spread over the companies. I worked with one company, more than 50 locations around the world. And from the first IOC, so indicator of compromise, to the last one, on the last location, it took 7 minutes, and the whole organization was encrypted. So no people will be able to react manually. The only way to fight with that kind of the things, that kind of the threats, is to do the automation. So try to automate, yeah, as much as possible in cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thank you, Krzysztof.